Hey guys, so today I wanted to talk about a role-playing system that I've been working on trying to make. Currently, it hasn't progressed very far. Um, Admittedly, I've been working like over 2 years on it and it hasn't really moved much a lot, which I'm sad about. But I am getting closer to being done it, and I'd like to go over a few like ways the system works to give everyone a heads up to see if it's something that sounds interesting or not. Obviously, there may be things I might not be realizing that might be poor. Although, from what I describe, it won't give you guys necessarily a great idea of what it is. So first, I'd like to go over the feat system. I think that's the most important thing, or whatever it'll be called after the ability system, or I don't know. I'm trying not to rip off like Dungeons and Dragons or anything. But there will be as you level up or progress, I'm not even sure if there's going to be levels yet, but as you progress, you'll be rewarded with points or whatever, and all the feats will be broken down into 5 stages. The first stage costs 1, second stage costs 2, and then third 3, 4, and anyways, they have 5 stages each, so it'll take 15 points to spend to get it the full set of the feat tree. So it'll be like if you're dual wielding or whatever, the first will help make you dual wield, but when you get to the end, it'll be even better. And they'll all be related based around that thing. It'll be like that for everything. Everything will be using the feat system for progression. Um, so yeah. So and you could have all just 1 points in a bunch of different feat trees, but I don't think you're gonna get very far with that. All the basic things aren't very strong, um, so it won't take you very far. Now I do have it so you don't need proficiency to use weapons or armor, so anyone can use any armor or use any weapon just as effectively as not. Now I know a lot of people say, but you can't just put it on and know how. First of all, your people are heroes and amazing, and second, I'm trying to work away with. I'm trying to minimize as much rules and knowledge you need to know ahead of time to play, so everything's just zero at the start. Like there's no like when you add more to yourself, that's when you're adding more rules. So you only need to know the rules of how you're bettering yourself. So there shouldn't be as many rules in regards to other things. Um, so let's talk about armor for a moment. Now that I said all that, the way I'm going to try to run armor, it hasn't all been worked out how it's been going to be done, but it's going to be something like this. Your defense system or whatever you want to call it. You apply a percent of your dex number to your I think I have it as your defense power DP or something like that, and everyone starts off with, I think it is 0 plus a percent of your defense to it. So it's a lot weaker than you'd use for like 3.5, so it's really easy to hit in this. But when you add your armor, depending on the level, there's a no armor category for wearing like cloth and stuff like that that could still potentially give you a little bit of armor bonus. Anyways, and then there's light armor, medium armor, and heavy armor. Now, depending on what you're wearing, it will add a bonus of armor to you. Like it'll add your bonus armor or your armor defense or whatever on from you in general. Now, the way it affects your dex though is it will not allow you to apply your dex bonus on you necessarily. So like let's say someone attacks you face on, you will get your dex bonus. But if you're wearing let's say heavy armor, you can't get your dex bonus when attacked directly from behind or directly from the sides. So you have to keep them right in front of you when you're wearing armor if you want to keep your dex bonus. So some people that wouldn't have a high dex, it's not a big deal for them. But if you're a high dex person, then yeah, you're gonna want to keep people in front of you. Especially too, like if you want to play a super dexterous character, but you want to try to put like armor on yourself to keep you well defended, it's a possibility. And another thing about armor is that light, medium, and heavy armor. Light armor restricts 1 stamina, medium armor restricts 2, and heavy armor restricts 3 stamina. Now, stamina in the game is used to perform all your actions. Instead of you just having like 3 actions you can perform a round or whatever, you have stamina you spend. It's going to be between 11 and 8 depending on like your race and stuff, but most people will have 9. That's where basically everyone will be, unless you invest in a feat tree that will eventually give you +1, and there's a race that gives you an extra 1 too. So like that'll give you 11 if you're going for high stamina usage. So that will hinder. That's how armor hinders your movement in this. Is it hinders your stamina. It locks with stamina, so you can't use it. So that's another thing about wearing heavy armor. Like you're down 3 stamina. Now the heavy armor feat tree, I think all the feat trees for armor end with the reduction of 1 stamina. Need it for your armor, so that's good. So like light armor doesn't take up any stamina, medium armor will only take up 1, and heavy armor will only take up 2. So that's quite a save. So that way it will make it so that heavy armor is more balanced that way, so everyone didn't just jump down for heavy armor. Now that's briefly how armor works or whatever, without the more nitty-gritty details. There might be like loopholes in that or something. But the next thing is weapons. Anyone can use weapons, no matter what. All weapons have certain properties attached to them that are outlined, like they're slashing, they're cutting, they're bludgeoning. Certain enemies might take more damage or be more resistance to those type of weapons, but what it really matters is the link to the feat tree. They'll provide maybe different attacks with that, or different abilities, or something like that, right? With with those weapon types. So instead of becoming proficient with one weapon, you become proficient with an attribute to weapons. So if it's slashing, you get the attribute to all slashing weapons. And stuff like that. So it gives it more, I think it adds more purpose to different weapons and stuff when you do something like that. It gives you, you can walk around with different combinations. So obviously you might pick one weapon and try to get all the feats with the attributes associated with that weapon. I mean, that's good. That makes it that one weapon is really important to you. But then it also gives you ability with a plethora of other weapons. Makes you good with all those other weapons. It also makes kind of sense too, logically, if you think about it. Like if you train with a certain type of weapon, and then you switch your weapon, then you still have a little bit experience with using that kind of weapon. And the other thing too is when you're attacking with weapons, or when you're attacking in general, there's 3 different kinds of attacks: light, medium, and heavy attack. They all use different amount of stamina: 2 for light, 4 for medium, and 6 for heavy attack. Now, certain weapons can't perform light, and certain weapons can't perform heavy attacks. But I'm pretty sure all feat trees lead to a point where you could use the other with every weapon. Now, there's also a different magic system. It's all relying on the feat system as well. Now you would progress down the feats to choose different things. Now it's the way the magic system works is you have a feat tree, we'll say for like an element, and then you pick an element at the start of the feat tree, and then you get that magic that you can cast with that element. And the second part of that element tree would be, I think it's resistance to that element, gives you some resistance. So when you get to cast that element spell, it's just literally you touch a person and it causes that kind of damage. Now you can also invest in a feat tree that gives you more parameters to that, add more parameters to that spell. Like it'll be like, oh, you can use it in it hits a 20-foot space instead. Or it'll be one like, oh, you can hit a target that you can see, and then you add the 20-foot one, and then you add the fire one. So you're hitting the target that you can see, it hits 20 foot around them, and it's all fire damage. So then you'll be able to like stick those all on. So at first the magic system is kind of like weak because it limits what you can do. But once you get more magic feats, it actually gives you a better range of the abilities you can perform. Like a teleport one, like it lets you teleport, but if you only have the first part of it, like you only move wherever you can touch, kind of thing, right? Like or where you can place your hand, so it doesn't really make sense. But then you get one where it's like, oh, you can see that target, so you just teleport over there. Things like that. So I think that's a fairly, I think that's a cool system to use. I call it the hook system. So like you hook the different spells together or whatever, different spell hooks. So I think that's a pretty cool idea. I'm interested to hear what people think about the magic system the most, to be honest. And then I've got a religious system too, like a different religion system. It's not the same like D&D where it like controls the magic powers you get. Well, there are certain benefits you get to it, but it's the way I'm treating religion in this game is that religion is true. Your religion and your religious powers are true to yourself, and not necessarily to anyone else. So, like, you could play an atheist or an agnostic player, and an atheist player, when you get down to the atheist tree, actually makes you immune to religious abilities. The religious abilities and stuff are some of the stronger ones in the game, but they require your character to have a certain amount of devotion points, or like, how can I explain this? Like in D&D, you have like a lawful and chaotic and evil stuff. I don't have that, but I have something called a polar system, which runs from -100 to +100. And when you're at a +100, your mind is like set in its ways. You're strong and firm in your beliefs, not necessarily just religion, but just in general, right? Like you could say it's the more lawful side of holding to your beliefs. And then if your character is a more broken character, maybe more insane, he'll be having in the negative polar, which would prevent him most of the time for performing religious abilities. There are some exceptions, but I'm not going into that, I guess. And when you're in negative polar, it makes you more acceptable to other people's religions. So like it makes your religion, your religious abilities and stuff weaker. It makes you more acceptable to theirs. So yeah. So those are the big things I really wanted to talk about and mention about it. I'll do an update, maybe more in depth about each one of those things and the other parts of the system. Yeah, I guess for movement, if anyone's interested to know about movement costs 1 stamina to move. So since you only have 9 stamina, that's a lot. But like if you move in a straight line, it costs 2 stamina to move 3 spaces, and then there's other rules too that help cut stamina for things. And I wrote out like an action sheet that has all the actions you can perform on it. I forget how many's on it. It's a long list, but I feel like compared to the things you can do in D, it's much shorter. Now, I'm not trying to say the different stuff you can do in Dungeons and Dragons and like Pathfinder are bad. Like those options are amazing. But I'm trying to make something that's more simple and more mechanical based, and more like based on like tactics with what you have available, like what you know. So it's a like more measured out system, so it's not as ambiguous. And the big thing too is the customization. Since there's a little bit more arbitrary rules that I added to mine, I guess the arbitrary kind of sounds bad. That's not what I mean. Right? Since there's more restrictions, that sounds bad too. Anyways, it actually makes the customization more important and better, in my opinion. And I have full customization. There's no classes in mine. I really wanted to add classes because I like classes in games, but it seemed to hold back the customization more than anything. So I have no classes, and it really comes down to how you make your character. The only thing too, though, is that when you're talking about classes and stuff, is that I always face the problem where people like they pick like a knight class or a paladin, and they felt like they were a paladin and they were a knight. And I know that's how D&D treats it, but I always hated it. Like you're trapped in a goal. Like in real life, you didn't have to be the stereotypical knight to be knighted and stuff like that, or like you could still have a priest has to like have certain properties. Stuff like that always bothered me, honestly. So I'm glad I can get rid of those tropes with my system. We'll see how it works. I have a couple of my friends that are really interested in it, and I use different races and stuff too, so that's fun. There's a lot that needs to be kinked out, of course, and maybe the system will never be complete. Who knows? I'm hoping someday it'll be complete. Maybe some comments from you guys will help encourage me to continue and release more information. Hopefully no one steals my ideas, because that would make me sad, because I'm not going to probably make any money off this, but I do plan to try to publish this, and cost me more money than I'd make, but I still want to do it, so I don't want my my ideas ripped off. Anyways, bye guys.